Hi, I'm Emily Gulrap, and my youth oppression project is on youth in poor countries, specifically the Global South. What countries are considered the Global South? There are about 71 countries that are the Global South. Here is a list of them. What countries of these are the most impoverished? We have one being Central African Republic. That is the lowest GDP per capita. So this is poverty of countries based off GDP per capita. The lower the GDP per capita is, the more impoverished they are. How does oppression affect youth? Children are seen as inferior to adults, causing a power imbalance and lack of autonomy. According to the differential oppression theory, children are seen as inferior to adults. This causes a power imbalance where adults are allowed to control children. This lack of social power creates oppression when it prevents a child from having access to resources, or if it prevents a child from autonomy. This oppression can lead to delinquency, sexual misbehaviors, substance abuse, teen pregnancy, eating disorders, and emotional disturbances. Youth nonetheless become a central focus of adult fascination, desire, authority, especially in the realm of popular culture. This prohibits youth from having individual freedom, social power, and critical agency. The first up is political oppression. Over 230,000 people, 70,000 children, were newly internally displaced due to electoral violence in Central African Republic. The conditions of internally displaced people in camps are very harsh. Another example of political oppression, in Sudan, young women grow up knowing that they do not have the independence that men do. Men can call authorities on women who are not dressed appropriately and have them detained. This rule was started by an authoritarian leader who is in power for 29 years. Because of ongoing conflict in Central African Republic, children as young as 8 are being used as child soldiers. Some are acting as guards, human shields, porters, messengers, spies, and for sexual purposes. Sexual oppression. In South Africa, a law was made in 2007 that prohibited sexual relations of adolescents under 16. This law was made with good intentions as it was to deter predatory behavior with adults and adolescents, although this law also criminalized adolescents engaging in sexual relations with other adolescents as well. This took away autonomy over them and also had the ability to make children criminals, which would be grouping them together with the predators. Using tactics like this to try to get adolescents to be abstinent, do not work, and do not promote healthy sexual behavior. The law was overturned in 2013 because it was unconstitutional. Another example is sexual abuse of boys in South Africa. Many know that the statistics show that girls are more likely than boys to be sexually assaulted or abused. In many cultures, it's taboo to speak about these issues, especially when boys are the victims. In a survey in South Africa, among 18-year-old boys, 44% said they had been forced to have sex at some point in their life. One reported factor in this was that it seemed to happen more with smaller and shorter boys and boys that had poorer families. Another example of sexual oppression is sex trafficking in Asia. This has been an issue for a while, and there has been some research done on this. One study was conducted in a small village in Thailand. Over 7 years, 150 families sent 61 daughters into prostitution. Some are shipped to other countries where they cannot communicate with others. Some of the girls died from AIDS by the time the research was done for this study. Most girls enter the trade at age 13 or 14. This can also be constituted as family oppression because it is often their parents or family members that sell them into the sex trade. Economic oppression. The split of Sudan and South Sudan leading to poverty, thus feeling like youth cannot have the choices or opportunities in their country. Youths constitute about 37% of Africa's labor force and account for 60% of total unemployment in Africa. The jobs that youths are employed in are informal. These jobs have limited protection, poor working conditions, and low incomes. More economic oppression examples. Neoliberal states exploit youth by giving them little pay and also exploit the fact that they are flexible and energetic about work. Another example is the child labor in Central African Republic, the minimum employment age being 12 years old for light work. This also hurts the children's rights to education because many of them are going to work instead of attending school. Educational oppression. Central African Republic has had an issue with education. Many schools were closed due to conflict. Even with the schools open, a small percentage of children in the Central African Republic attend school. There has not been much help from the government assistance with this issue. Because of this, children are losing their right to education. Similarly, in Somalia, more than 3 million children are not attending school, and even if they do, it is not successful because of the overcrowded classrooms, issues with water sanitation, and lack of teachers. Girls are also more apt to not attend school in Somalia because of the social norms favoring boys. Family oppression, as I talked about before in the sexual oppression category, many young girls are sold into sex trafficking by their own family members. And I am able to take any questions and do my best as I can to answer those. Thank you.